Hello everyone. Today in this video we are going to continue with our discussion of klystrons. Previously we have seen two cavity klystron and multi-cavity klystron. Today we will see reflex klystron. Okay, so the previous klystrons that we have seen, that is two cavity and multi-cavity, both are primarily used as an amplifier. They can also be used as an oscillator. So what do we require to make these klystrons as an oscillator? So if the fraction of output power is fed back to the input cavity, okay, that means giving a positive feedback, and the if loop gain is of unity with phase shift of 180 degree or 2 pi, obviously device will oscillate. This concept we have already seen in the previous semesters. Any device, if a positive feedback is taken and given back to input with phase shift of 180 degree, okay, that is Barkhausen criteria, then that device will work as an oscillator rather than amplifier. So this technique we can use in the two cavity and multi cavity klystron also. Okay, so instead of amplifier, now this klystron will work as an oscillator. But the two cavity klystron oscillator is usually not constructed, because when the oscillation frequency is varied, the resonant frequency of each cavity, because there will be at least two cavities for two cavity klystron, and for multi cavity klystron there may be more than two cavities. So these cavities will suffer a different resonant frequency, and we will have to adjust the feedback and the phase shift to provide the proper oscillation. Okay, since multiple cavities are involved, it is difficult to adjust the resonant frequency of each cavity, because cavity will have to work as a resonator in that case. Okay, so that's why two cavity klystron or multi cavity klystron are not used as an oscillator, and they are preferred for amplifier. But reflex klystron is a single cavity klystron that tries to overcome the disadvantages of two cavity klystron oscillator. Okay, so solution is we are using reflex klystron. To make these klystrons as an oscillator, we will use a separate type of klystron, that is reflex klystron. So these are nothing but low power oscillators or generators of 10 to 500 milliwatt 10 to 500 milliwatt output, frequency range very good from 1 to 25 gigahertz, and efficiency is also decent, about 20 to 30%. Okay, so these are the specifications of reflex klystron. So where this is used, this is widely used in primarily microwave measurements, where you have to measure the microwave powers or different parameters of the microwave communication circuit. Also these are used in microwave receivers as local oscillator, because every time a receiver requires a local oscillator to regenerate the transmitted frequency appropriately, in commercial or military or Doppler radars as well as missiles. Okay, in these areas wherever microwave receivers are used, reflex klystrons are used as a local oscillator. Okay, so this is regarding introduction to the reflex klystron. So let's see the construction of it. Now the theory part is similar to that two cavity and multi cavity klystron, but the analysis will slightly differ, and theory will also has a slight modification. So we are seeing the schematic diagram of the reflex klystron. Now let's observe what are the changes from the previous klystron. Okay, so first thing, similar to the two cavity klystron, there is a cathode, anode, electron beam, okay, microwave input, RF output, that is microwave output, all things are present. What's the difference? Let's see. Now these are the common parameters or common things that we have seen in the previous klystron. These are cathode, anode, this is electron beam, this is a microwave input, here we are getting an output. Now this part is slightly different. In the two cavity klystron or multi cavity klystron, we had klystron working as a amplifier. So this part was a collector. It means it is used to collect the electron beam or bunched electrons here. Now we don't want to collect it here, but we want to give it as a feedback to the input side again. So how to do that? Instead of collector, we are using a repeller. So repeller is the change. Now repeller is attached to the DC voltage denoted by VR. Microwave input is denoted by Vs, V1 sin omega t. This is AC. VR is a DC. Also, anode is connected to a DC voltage V0. Okay, so it is also cathode is connected to V0 and VR combinedly. Okay, so this is the construction. Now what will happen as electron beam enters the cavity? Okay, bunching process will start. This is a buncher cavity, as we know. Now these electron beams start moving towards the repeller. Now since this is a repeller, as you can see, negative terminal is connected to this, so electrons are also having a negative charge. So this will be repelled and go back to the cavity. You can see over here the path is shown as a turning back towards the cavity, and they will come back at this position again. Obviously it will take some time for electrons to come back from repeller back to the cavity itself, and that's what we are going to analyze, how much time it will take and what should be the considerations for that. Okay, so at the bottom the time span is shown to you. First of all, what is the width of a cavity? If we see, width of a cavity is d, as shown on the top of the diagram. Okay, the length between cavity exit and repeller is L. So total distance traveled by the electron beam will be L plus D, obviously. Now the time span, time for electron entering the cavity gap at z is equal to 0 is considered as T0. So this is our T0, the entry of the cavity. Okay, then T1 is the next time, that is time for electron leaving the cavity gap at z is equal to d, because width of a cavity gap is d. So T1 is a time at which electron beam travels the distance of d. Now we are always assuming that traveling of the electron beam is in z direction. Okay, that's why z is equal to 0 and z is equal to d is mentioned. Okay, remember that. Then T2 is the same point as a T1. Okay, T1 and T2 both are shown to be same point, that is electron beam arriving here but after traveling towards repeller and coming back here, that is T2. So T2 is a time for same electron returned by retarding field of the repeller. This repeller provides a retarding field that will repel electrons back towards the cavity at z is equal to d, that means again at this point, and collected on walls of the cavity. Okay, so that is the time. So T1 and T2, although point on a time diagram, both are the same points. Electrons arrive here at T1 and come back here at T2. This is T2 and this is T1. Okay, so that is the difference between T1 and T2. So let's look at the analysis of this. So analysis of reflex klystron is similar to that of two cavity klystron. So how it is similar? The potential energy, kinetic energy, all those factors will be similar. For simplicity, we are again neglecting the space charge forces on the electron motion. What are the space charge forces? We have seen this previously. When electron bunch together, if they come, a lot of electron come together, that is bunched together, then their repulsive force will force these electrons away from each other, that is in the radial direction or in the z direction, that is forward direction. So that is nothing but space charge force. So that we are neglecting in this reflex klystron, because this is a single cavity and electron bunching is of a small number of electrons rather than a large number. That is, we have seen again, we have seen previously that beam tunnel is much larger than the actual electron beam. So that's why we are neglecting space charge effects. Okay, so the electron entering the cavity gap from cathode at z is equal to 0, that means at the 0 distance, that means entry point of the cavity, and time t0. This is t0, not 2. Time t0 is assumed to have uniform velocity, that means unchanged velocity. Electrons travel with unchanged velocity given by small nu 0 is equal to 0.593 into 10 raised to 6 square root of v0. That is similar to your ev0. Okay. Now the same electron leaves the cavity at distance d at time t1 with velocity v of or nu of t1 is equal to v0, and the change in the velocity, this derivation we have seen in case of two cavity klystron how it is coming. So this is the equation of velocity at time t1, velocity at time t0, velocity of time t1. Okay, this is at time t1. This expression and problems associated are identical to those of a two cavity klystron amplifier. So up till this point this is same as a two cavity klystron amplifier. The next part is when the electrons come back to the exit point of a cavity at time t2, what will be the velocity at time t2. That is the next point of discussion. So let's see that. The same electron is forced back to the cavity at distance d, z is equal to d, and time t2 by retarding electric field E. So repeller electric field, that is retarding electric field, is considered as E. Now what it is given by Vr plus V0 plus V1 sin omega t upon L. Now what is this? Vr we know DC voltage applied to repeller, V0 DC voltage applied to anode and cavity, and V1 sin omega t is our microwave input or RF input. Okay, so this is DC, this is also DC, and this is AC, that is RF input, that is microwave input, and L is a distance between exit point of cavity and repeller. Okay, so this retarding field E is assumed to be a constant in Z direction. So this is assumed to be a constant because that will make our analysis simpler. So how to find out the velocity? So velocity can be found out from the force. Now force equation for one electron in the repeller region is given by this particular equation. Now how this equation has come? We know that force is equal to mass into acceleration. So mass of electron m, acceleration is d2z by dt square. Now how d2z by dt square? Z is a direction in which it is traveling, that is calculated in distance, z is equal to d. So d2z by dt square y. Now we know that velocity is displacement upon time and acceleration is second order displacement upon time, because acceleration is nothing but dv by dt. Okay, acceleration is nothing but dv by dt. Now what is v? Substitute v from this equation, so d2 x by dt square. I hope this is clear. Velocity is, now we have a distance of d. Okay, so d, that is z, so velocity is equal to dz by dt. So acceleration is equal to dv by dt. What is dv by dt? Derivative of v, that is dz, that will be equal to d2z by dt square. That is how d2z by dt square is obtained over here. Okay, I hope this is clear now. Now it is equal to minus E into E, that is electric field, retarding electric field into electron charge particle, and capital E is, we have already defined it, my Vr plus V0 upon L. Now this input is missing. Why? Where is used in the Z direction only, that we know. Where is the magnitude of repeller voltage, that we also know. Now this part is missing. Why? Because we are assuming that V1 sin omega t is too small compared to this DC voltage. Microwave inputs are of very small power, that means very small voltage, which is in comparison to the DC voltage, and that's why we can neglect it. These are very large numbers compared to the microwave input signal. So we are neglecting the AC part. So minus E VR plus V0 upon L. That is our equation for force of one electron in the repeller region. Now from this we have to calculate the velocity and finally the time at which it will come back to the exit point of the cavity. Electron will come back to the exit point of cavity. So how to calculate velocity now? Now we know this is acceleration. d2z by dt square is acceleration. So if I integrate it, I will get a velocity. If you integrate d2z by dt square, forget about m. If we integrate d2z by dt square, I will get velocity. If we further integrate velocity, I will get what I will get? I will get the displacement, that is d. Okay, so let's do that. Sorry. So at t is equal to t1, so recall the actual diagram. At t is equal to t1, that means at distance d, it will be a velocity. Okay, electron bunch will have traveled from z is equal to 0 to z is equal to d. So there will be a velocity. Distance is d, distance travels is d, and with respect to time it will give velocity. So how to find out that velocity? Let's look at again. Okay, so at t is equal to t1, it is nothing but dz by dt, because it's a displacement from original location with respect to time, and it is nothing but velocity at time t1. Let's assume that it is equal to k1. Then z, that means integrating this will give you z. So how it will be find out? Z is equal to integration of now minus E into VR plus V0 upon L. This is taken from this equation. Okay, mass into acceleration we have, which is given out to be this one. So only acceleration part will be coming as d2, this m is taken downwards. Okay, d2z by dt square is given as minus E into VR plus V0 upon ml. So that's what we are doing, minus E into VR plus V0 upon ml, because we are taking integration for t1 to t. Okay, or t minus t1, that is total time traveled, into dt, and further you have to take a displacement. So this one is for second order integration and this is first order integration. Okay, because this formula is regarding second order. We have d2z by dt square, so we have to integrate it twice. So that's why you are seeing two integrations over here. We have to integrate this twice so that we will get z. Okay, if we integrate only once, we will get dz by dt. So we are integrating it two times to get actual z. Okay, so what is the limit of integration? T1 to t, because t is considered as now constant, random or general term, and t1 is the time at which we are going to calculate the distance again, that is returning distance now. So two times we are doing integration. First is t1 minus t1, that is actual distance, and second is only simple integration without considering this repeller voltage. Okay, so if we integrate it, we will get this equation. This will become a square term after applying the limits of integration. Then v of t1 into t minus t1 again after solving the integration, and a constant term k2. What is this constant term? Now this constant term is at t1 z is equal to d, so k2 is nothing but d, so that is what it is mentioned. So the total distance is, after returning from repeller, the total distance traveled will be find out by this particular equation. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now at z is equal to d, k2 is equal to d. Okay, why? Because this is my cavity, this is z is equal to 0 and this is d. So this is a z direction, so this d is assumed to be k2, and this is because of presence of repeller, this distance will be also traveled, so that is considered over here. So total distance traveled is this one. Now next, on the assumption that electron leaves the cavity gap at z is equal to d and time is equal to t1, that we have already said, and velocity of v of t1, the returns to the gap at z is equal to and time t2, then at t is equal to t2, this is 0. Z is 0 because starting point starting point and ending point both are same, so their difference is 0, and this is substituted in this particular derived equation. So z is equal to 0. Why? Because both are the same points, initial point and ending point both are same point, like this one. Okay, so that is total distance traveled is 0 because we are not moving anywhere, we are coming back to the same point. Actual distance traveled is much larger, that is given by this one, but in terms of length it is 0. Okay, the total length that is traveled is 0, so that is 0 considered over here. This is called as a round trip transit time. This concept round trip time we know already, initial point and end point both are same, so it is called as a round trip transit time, and in the repeller region, and it is given by t dash is equal to t2 minus t1. T2 is a time at which it comes back, t1 time at which it leaves the cavity. So it is given by this formula which is used over here, 2 ml upon e into Vr plus V0, V of T1, and further substituting details of V of T1 which we have shown already in this video, which is taken from two cavity klystron. So this is nothing but V of T1, where T0 is nothing but this particular term is T0 dash, is called as this T0 dash is nothing but round trip DC transit time of the center of the bunch electron. Okay, because this is only this T0 dash involves only DC voltage, so it is called as round trip DC transit time, whereas this involves AC voltage also, so it is kept as it is, and this is a result of a nu of T1, that is velocity at time of T1. Okay, so this is important, and this is total transit time, round trip transit time. Okay, this is round trip transit time which is consisting of time elapsed because of DC plus AC voltage, whereas T0 dash is the round trip DC transit time of a center of the bunch electron. Okay, so multiplication of this T dash by radian frequency, obviously that will we have to multiply it by omega, so T dash is multiplied by omega, it is given by theta 0 dash x dash sine of omega t1 minus theta g2, whereas theta 0 dash is omega t0 dash. Okay, similar to omega t dash, we are having omega t0 dash denoted by theta 0 dash. It is called as round trip DC transit angle. Okay, so total angle, this angle is known as round trip DC transit angle of the center of the bunch electron, and x dash is a bunching parameter of reflex klystron. X dash is a bunching parameter of reflex klystron oscillator. Okay, so these are also important parameters while designing a reflex klystron. Okay, so in this video we have seen another type of klystron. The working is almost similar to that of two cavity and multi cavity. The difference is we are using a positive feedback by replacing a collector with a repeller. So two cavity and multi cavity both are used as a amplifier, whereas reflex klystron is used as a oscillator. Okay, so that is regarding the reflex klystron. That's all for today. Thank you.